People like games.
What's up? What's up?
Present the At Some Point in the Day show with Solo.
It's Solo. Welcome back to the show. For Monday, March 9th, going to be talking a little bit about the addition of Reggie Fils-Aimé to GameStop's board of directors and whether that means GameStop is potentially safe. Probably not. However, first, the socials. At People Like Games is the handle for Twitter, Instagram, etc. The website and the shop, men's and women's apparel, is plg.gg. And this show you are listening to right now, as well as their new one, which is going to be announced on the socials just mentioned, is available on all the usual content suspects: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, etc. Wherever content exists, I'm out there and we out there. Now, without doing much further, let's get it. Reggie is very popular in the gaming community, and that is because he's a very big personality. He is the former president of Nintendo and oversaw the release of the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch, a whole bunch of 3DS stuff, and a couple of huge Nintendo Directs. GameStop, a increasingly hemorrhaging business that is coming off a year where it saw a $500 million loss, which was preceded by another year where it was reporting a $500 million loss in one quarter, which was preceded by a year that it had announced a 13% decrease in global sales and closed over 150 of its stores. In addition to the fact that it's existing in a market where digital purchases of games is now a larger percentage of overall purchasing than physical games. Now that space is GameStop and Reggie was in Nintendo. And the question is whether these two can form a marriage that can save the latter from through the magic of the former. And I think the question that fundamentally at the heart of that is not what Reggie has done before and how popular he is or what his skill set is. It's just whether GameStop is in a market that it can survive. Over the past couple of months has been shifting towards trying out a new concept that was going to be more akin to a PC shop / lounge where you have a couple of couches, consoles, and computers, and the goal would be to try to shift to real life or into the real world, a weekly hangout that people would be doing online. As someone who has been hosting those for over a year and a half, shout out People Like Games, I can tell you that while they do want to do a meetup on the occasion to commit to something on a week-to-week basis is something that you might end up attracting a high school age group to, but you're not going to get an older demographic that has the time to fit that into their schedule. So you're better off doing something coordinated once every 3 months and then sticking to something else. So now, if your main selling point can no longer be games, which it is not for GameStop, for a large part, they are just a Funko Pop reseller and peripherals and the occasional used game deal, and even used games aren't really a thing because physical games aren't really popular anymore, so people are just buying discounted digital ones when they go on sale on one of the X amount of online shops that are now available. So if that is your competition place, the question now becomes, where do you make your margins? And the margins have become more competitive with, say, an Astro Gaming coming in, etc., where you can buy these directly from the site, and that sort of gets away the purpose of having something like GameStop. So what is the point of GameStop in the 21st century when all games are digital? So esports and sort of using a structure of a digital lounge is one idea. And so given that they wanted to roll that out and they have a few months prior to the release of the new consoles, bringing Reggie in is to figure out a way they can try to get more services to create more profits. What manner that will take, whether it's a restructuring of the stores they have, the types of stores, shuttering stores, changing things, in addition to whether GameStop as a brand has the legs to revamp itself and sort of reemerge. And it's sort of like the question that we didn't get to see the end of with Blockbuster. If it had pivoted thoroughly and sort of committed, or, what would have been the case? Or are we looking at what is maybe a bit more better fundamental analogy is GameStop Circuit City or Best Buy? Because Best Buy was able to turn its fortunes around through the introduction of the Best Buy card, which is a great steal if you have good credit, and the introduction of price matching and just functioning as the place someone can go to look and feel in person the things they want to use prior to purchasing them, which is what GameStop hopes to do. So to be able to go and play any single video game at a GameStop prior to buying it could be a pull. So there is a feasibility that Reggie has the skills, but for the amount of money the brand is losing, in addition to that it failed to find a buyer, it needs a bit more of a structural overhaul, which should potentially be given in the other two board of director members that were hired alongside Reggie but weren't sort of properly highlighted as much, which were Bill Simmons, who was the former CEO of Walmart, and J.K. Simonik, who is the current CEO of PetSmart. And the reason for those two, if you look at all three hires within a larger scale perspective, is Reggie for the gaming and the culture and the sort of organicness of what they're trying to do in the face of selling it. Because people love Reggie, so if Reggie puts his name to GameStop, you'll get a lot of fans simply because Reggie put his name to GameStop. Then you have Bill Simmons, who's at Walmart, the logistics-oriented aspect of reshuffling these stores and cleaning up their pipeline. And if you recall, I think it was November of 2018, GameStop had tried to create a rental program with their used games that they had in stock, which I thought was genius, but then it failed miserably literally within a week because they just did not have the technology in place to be able to execute on that. If they did, the used library concept becomes a bit different because there's some games, it's like the DVDs that you want that aren't on the streaming services. There will be holes that can be filled, and GameStop may get a few extra sales in a larger community from that, all depending. And then you have Simonik from PetSmart, whose goal again will be to show what services you can do to exist as a physical location in a digital world. So while people can buy dog food on Amazon, why would they go to PetSmart? What does it give you? What is involved in all of these things that can allow you to exist without always being fighting the red line, going into the black and staying in a solid green? That's related to revenue. And so, can Reggie do it? I don't know. I want to say probably not. I think it's just a space now for a new brand to potentially fill that gap if no other business ends up sprouting that is focused on serving this type of market that's not just an internet cafe, more or less, a PC cafe with a slight tuning. And does GameStop have the cultural leverage to reinvent itself and be a draw instead of what it sort of looked like right now is just it's sort of faltering? Like GameStop does not have a good rep, and that's sort of deservedly so, because this might just be epic karma for all of the shit that they have potentially made people eat in their returns all of these years. So in for a Reggie, out for a pound is the hope. What they get, we're gonna find out. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. I might buy a few stock. I'm doubtful, but they do have the locations, and so the quicker they move, the better they are. We shall see. We shall find out. I would like to be able to be part of it. Shout out GameStop. You know we worked with you in the past, and we, the people, like games, are definitely trying to get right back in that bag with you in the future. We know we're already in touch. I myself subscribe to the physical till I die. You cannot own a digital copy. You literally own it as a perpetual rental. A physical copy you physically own and cannot be taken should that service go down or you get rid of your Game Pass or your Xbox Live or whatever it may be. I have a disc, and when I put it in a working console, it'll work. Minus probably internet connection. But regardless, I still own it. Anywho, that was new. That was one topic. Could be interesting, could not be interesting, a bit more factual, but far more valuable per the day. So, as always, thank you for listening. Back tomorrow with a new episode. That'll be on Call of Duty and the fact that they released a Battle Royale. Why though? I don't know. Socials, @PeopleLikeGames. The shop, plg.gg. Peace!